All right. We are back. First of all, Fanta, we took a little hiatus. We did like one interview and we're like, all right, we need to. Jordan's like doing work now. He's like doing stupid shit and can't just hop on whenever. So this is we're starting it back up again. And you're the first. I was like, literally yesterday I was talking. I was like, we need somebody just to tell everybody what's going on in college basketball because they won't believe that we're watching, and everyone knows you're watching. So I was like, we need Fanta to come on, explain what's happening.
Well, what stands out to me first is that Jordan's room. It really looks like that's progressed throughout the last month. I mean, you've got a. I mean, you look like that's a working man's room.
100%. Also, your girlfriend had to have decorated your room.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're in a relationship, so you know that.
Yo, yeah. It's funny. My apartment when I lived with Dana was like there was nothing there. You know, it was just a couch and a TV.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh my God, it's nice to come home. It's a home. It's cozy. I got a fucking Christmas tree. It's great.
Right.
Well, especially where you came from, you had a bird shit in your room all over the place. Now look at you. Who would have thought?
Hey, look, I'm an engaged man now. I've come a long way.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like that?
That's
you
what
just
I'm
got married,
about.
right?
Yes.
Look at it.
I just got married. I just got married, and now you walk in and yes, the Christmas tree, the speakers. Then you're told to do this or that. Then if you start to help out, you're told you're really not helping me right now. You're just creating more of a mess. But you guys will learn here in due time how that all works. But that's exactly right. I mean, it sounds to me like you could have moved out of your previous place as fast as you moved in.
Yes.
There was nothing there.
Yeah, there's literally nothing there. We had lawn chairs for like the first 5 months, just sitting in it. And we were like happy. We're like, this is great. As long as we got a TV, that's all I needed. And I don't know if you know Dana. He doesn't need much in his life either. As long as he has beer and that's it, he's good.
A bird, though?
A
bird?
I had a bird in my... This was when I was living with my parents still in Long Island. I had a bird, and I used to watch college basketball for 6 hours with a bird on a stick and stream myself the entire time. I'll send you a video. He flew into the wall, and he hit his head. It was a whole thing.
Good Lord.
That's got to be the craziest video I've ever seen in my life. Nothing will ever top that.
It's one of the craziest videos. I still get people coming up to me about it. It's crazy.
See that.
But yes, we got to talk a little college basketball. And I want to start off first right away. Everyone last year, right? It's wide open. Mm-hmm. You don't know obviously UConn won every game by 20 plus in the tournament, but it was still wide open of like FAU, San Diego State, like all these crazy teams coming down to it. I think this year's even more wide open. I think there's so many good teams to win the championship. There's not a clear-cut team right now. Obviously, you got Arizona, you got Kansas, You have UConn, but they're all like Purdue, like anyone could get beat on any night.
I think it's a combo of two things. I think you could look at it both ways. I think, one, there are a lot of very good teams. There's no one absolutely dominant team. At some point, Arizona is going to lose, and you would think that the law of averages says they lose sometime in their next 3 games, whether that's, as we're recording, against Purdue or against Florida Atlantic or against Alabama. They didn't play in a multi-team event, Arizona, but this is what Tommy Lloyd did. He basically said, we'll make our own MTE. So they're playing all 3 of those teams at neutral sites.
I love that.
So I like that scheduling strategy by them. But I also think it's the way that the game has changed where experience rules, and there's just so many teams that you look at and you say, wow, he's in his 5th year, he's in his 6th year. Or even those guys who have just stuck around and are just regular seniors that maybe previously would have gone pro in a different era, but are staying because it's more valuable for them to stay in the college game. So you just have more recognizable players. I don't think there's ever been a better time in college basketball. I get that there's some people who say, it's not the same. But shut up with that. This sport is fantastic because it has rich parity, and it has what college football doesn't right now, and that is you're not going to have a Florida State. You're going to have 68 teams, and I would argue this. I don't think the tournament should ever expand. Ever. I know that it probably will, but to me, as much as there are a lot of very good teams, Marty and Jordan, There's also the fact that I think it's harder for a committee to find 68 teams that are worthy of playing in the NCAA tournament, because I don't think there's much of a difference between the 30th best team and the 50th best team, and the 50th best team and the 85th best team in this sport. So my point is, as much as there's a lot of very good teams, there's also a lot of teams that each one of them, you look at a matchup and you say, yeah, they have their flaws, or they have their flaws. And it's that much harder to go on the road and win. So it is wide open. That's part of the beauty of it. But by not having one dominant team, you do have teams that are even in the top 10 where you say, am I buying them all the way?
Yep.
And that's okay. I think we're still finding out about certain teams to see what exactly they're made of.
Two things. One, you're right. If they expanded, it'd be so stupid. I think they have the perfect form. I know it's money. Like, money-wise, it's good. There'll be more games, whatever. But, like, they have the perfect formula. They have the best playoff format there is in any sport.
Yes.
And they don't change it. And your second point, is there a team in the top 10 you're not sure if you're buying or not? My one question for you was Creighton.
Right.
Because I think they could win the championship.
Yep.
And then they just lose 2 games to dog shit teams.
Yep.
And I'm like, what's going on? Like, they rely on their shooting a ton, but then I'm also like, you can't count them out.
No, because if they come out and hit you in a wave where they start 4 of 5 or 5 of 6 from 3, which is entirely possible, they're a very dangerous team. Here's the issue with Creighton. They need Trey Alexander to be their alpha to win. He has to just accept the fact that he's their best player. He is their best NBA prospect. Mm-hmm. Baylor Shireman's a very good college player. Baylor Shireman could be a pro. But Alexander, to me, he's got to take control of this team. In the 2 losses that Creighton's had, both to Mountain West teams, Creighton's enemy is, their enigma is now the Mountain West. Yep. Don't ever play the Mountain West again.
Ever again.
In their 2 losses, Alexander has been awful, like beyond bad, and that's just not like him. So if I'm an opponent, I'm saying you got to stop him. The other thing is, because they lost Ryan Nembhard in the transfer portal, when they picked up Stephen Ashworth, who I think is a quality point guard, but he's not Nembhard.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, Ashworth is not a dribble penetrator, getting towards the basket, being able to draw defenders to him, and then you can kick out for open looks. Right now for Creighton, everything's just coming harder for them offensively. And we're not used to that. And then I think the other thing is, Ryan Kalkbrenner is a 2-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. And against the other night in their loss against UNLV, he really got commanded.
Yeah.
He got commanded by UNLV's big, who had just played in that game because of the transfer stuff in the NCAA.
Oh, yes.
And he really got picked apart in that game. And I just think for Kalkbrenner, like, you got to answer the bell now and come alive for this Creighton team, because you are one of the best defensive players in the country, and you got dominated by UNLV's front court. So Creighton, you're right. I mean, I question Creighton, okay? I question North Carolina.
100%.
Because I don't know. Defensively, they don't do enough for me, right? And if Cormac Ryan's cold, it goes the wrong way. I still don't fully know about Houston. I think they're tough as nails. I think they're so hard to play against. But they're 10-0 against a relatively weak schedule. Like,
100%.
Who have they beat?
Nobody. And we all know they play very good defense.
Yes.
They're tough. They play very good defense. And they're I think, the best coach in college basketball.
Oh, he's great. And it's not, if Cougar fans are listening and are mad at me, I think you're the toughest team in the country. But we have seen in the NCAA tournament, defense only goes so far. At some point, you have to score. And that's why Connecticut won the national championship. And frankly, it's why they could win it again.
I was just, Jordan.
I think I was going to make an argument here. Go backpedal a little bit, Fanta, because you touched on this. And Marty said it is a wide open year. But how many times have we said that throughout college basketball? And what are the last 4 teams in the Final Four? They're all blue bloods normally. So Besides last year. I would argue when it's more wide open, that's when the blue bloods become exposed to having the experience, having the coaches that have the experience in making deep runs. I wouldn't be surprised Michigan State throw a team out there. They come out, Izzo in March. He comes out and just dominates in March, and they make a run.
Well, he
to
hasn't
Final
won
Four.
in 15 years, right? Or no, 25 years maybe, something like that.
24 years.
24 years. So I think we got to stop the February Izzo April.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
hey,
my bad.
that's
Yeah,
just
sorry.
me. You know,
We've
that's
already
just
made
me.
that argument. My bad. I'm sorry.
Well, look, they've
Could
got
use any other coach, Jordan.
you could, but here's the thing, Jordan. When you say that, the thing I'll say is when it is, you're exactly right. When it is wide open, at some point, for a blue blood or a big brand program, your talent starts to trump everybody. Like at the end of the day, we could scout all we want, but great players have to deliver. And here's the thing with Michigan State: as bad as they've been, and they've been bad. It's 4-5 as we're recording. They still have Tyson Walker. Guys that score over 20 points per game don't grow on trees, and he does. He scores around 20 points per game. They've got to figure out their front court, and the answer to that might be going small. I mean, you might just have to decide, Tom Izzo, that fundamentally your bigs are what they are. They're not very good, and the best method for this team is to go smaller. But I'm in agreement with you. When there is a wide openness, it lends itself to a Duke to be able to figure things out as the year goes on. Just get into the tournament. If you're a 6 seed, if you're an 8 seed, whatever it is, you don't want to be in an 8-9 game. But I'm just saying, like, at some point in the sport, there's a lot of arguments that can be made about who can win a certain matchup. But I say this to people all the time, and I'm going to say it to you guys here. At the end of the day, when you're saying, could they win the national championship? Could they win the national championship? You know, could Arizona do it? Can Purdue do it? Can UConn? Can Baylor? Those are my 4 teams, okay? Arizona, Purdue, UConn, and I would pick Baylor because of Jacoby Walter and Ray J. Dennis and their offense. Those are my 4 top teams. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, for all this stuff, it's draw dependent. It's dependent on who you draw, who gets upset in your region. Because your whole path to getting to a Final Four can change because of one other game that's happening on the opposite side of the country in your region, in the NCAA tournament, a game that you had nothing to do with in playing. So, you know, if you look at it, Creighton faced Princeton in the Sweet 16.
Yep.
San Diego State, you give them credit for getting to the Elite Eight and doing what they did, but by the same token, they're getting to the Elite Eight and they're facing either Creighton or Princeton to make the Final Four. Now, Creighton was really good, but look at some of the other teams and what they had to go through.
Oh, yeah.
So when we get into this conversation about who can win it all, yeah, we're going to pick a bunch of teams because at the end of the day, we don't know in this sport.
No idea.
And perfect example. I know everyone's gonna hate talking about Iowa, but here I go talking about Iowa. The COVID year, we were number 2 seed. We had a phenomenal team. Luka, Keegan, Chris. We had 3-4 NBA guys on the team, and we got a draw where we played the Pac-10 champions, or I guess it was Pac-12 when they changed it, Oregon in the second round, and they had a bye against a VCU team because they had COVID. We got a shitty draw. As I hate to make excuses, we played a champion team or a conference champion team in the second round. It's all about draws. Everyone's talking
horrendous.
About yeah.
You got smoked, too.
We got killed by Oregon.
Smoked.
Yeah, I had the worst game of my career.
Yeah, you were dog shit. I remember that. I remember where I watched it, too.
You
What
let
was
me
that
know, too.
Yeah, I know.
And what was that post-game press conference like?
Oh, it was shit. It was so bad. It was so bad.
I think I immediately texted you. I was like, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah, I remember my last shot was an air ball.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember it perfectly.
You had Iowa in the game.
Yeah, I did.
That's why we fucking lost.
Yeah, exactly. You got mushed.
But yeah, and what we were talking about, like the transfer portal, the COVID years, like we have guys like Hunter literally has another year if he wanted to. That's crazy.
He should take it.
He should 100% take it. But like you have teams, you have blue blood teams now. Because my whole argument is whoever wins the national championship always usually has experience on the team. as of recent. Like Villanova's had experience. UConn has experienced players on the team. Kansas has experience. Now you do have these blue bloods again, where Kansas has experience. Duke now has experience with everyone coming back. Like all the UNC has experience, and then Baylor is going to be. I think Baylor's like the best team in the country.
Well, they could be. They could be. That team is really dangerous. And Scott Drew, I think last year hurt Scott Drew. I think they lost in the NCAA tournament to Creighton. And in that game, they could not stop Creighton.
Yep.
And I think for Baylor, as much as this year again, their offense is number 2 in KenPom. Number 2 in the country in KenPom. Their defense is just outside the top 40. I think the defensive growth of this team is important as the year goes on, but you're not going to find a team that can score the ball more effectively than them because Ray J. Dennis was a high-end transfer who can make plays, and he could score the basketball, but has a great sense of who he is. You bring in a one-and-done freshman. I mean, if you haven't watched Jacoby Walter play, he is a top 3 freshman in college basketball. Even though the stats don't necessarily show it, because he's averaging around 14 per game, and there's some freshmen. I'm going to shout out Malik Mack at Harvard. There's a shout out.
Malik Mack, look at that.
Yeah, watch out for that kid. If you haven't watched him play, he is really something special. But I think Jacoby, his length, his versatility, his shot making all lends itself to he's going to hear his name early in the night called in June in Brooklyn at the NBA draft. But not just that, Jalen Bridges has also evolved under Scott Drew. Jonathan Chachua is still there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so and Langston Love is still there. So they've got options. They could play in different ways, and they're a little bit more capable defensively. Scott Drew at Baylor. If you're Baylor basketball, you should be so grateful that he's your head coach. And it wasn't always roses, right? No. There were some bad chapters there.
Yeah.
But Drew, he's led them to the promised land, and they're more than capable enough of getting there again.
100%. Are you going next week? Duke Baylor?
I'm not going to Duke Baylor because I got to work that night, but I'll be watching very closely. It's a chaotic night. That particular night in the area, St. John's plays their Big East opener against Xavier, which is 2 teams that are kind of in the middle of the Big East, but UConn's playing Seton Hall at the Prudential Center.
I know. Frank the Tank asked me to sit courtside with him at Seton Hall.
Oh.
I'm going. I got to go see my guys, Duke.
I don't know. I don't know if you're going to miss much of that game. Seton Hall is horrible this year.
Yeah, they're not great.
They're having a tough year.
They're not great. And it's also like you kind of expected it too, You
did.
Their coach is just getting in there. Like you got to give him. I usually give coaches 3 years with the transfer portal.
Well, and Shaheen Holloway's going to have time because he's a graduate of the school.
Yeah.
And went to the Sweet 16 there. He's the prodigal son, and at the end of the day, he took St. Peter's University to the Elite Eight. He didn't forget how to coach. I think it's just harder in the NIL era to get your guys at a Seton Hall. Give him time. Give him time. Not everybody gets time at certain programs. Give him time there.
That's a wild transition if you think about it. I know there's a lot of ex-players that go back to their school, and rightfully so because they've earned the right to coach there. But we've also seen a lot of scenarios, Fanta, where a guy like that has come into the university and been shot out as quick as he came in because of how poor of a job he did. So that's almost like it's a double-edged sword, really, when you're going back to your university.
Absolutely. At a Seton Hall, Jordan, like they're never going to – you got the star of March Madness 2 years ago.
Yep.
So who else do you want to do that job? That's not an easy job. Once upon a time, Fran McCaffery went for that job when he was at Siena. But he ended up at Iowa, and the rest is history. By the way, Jordan, you obviously agree with me, but I do want to make this very clear on your guys' pod. I've seen it on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, the last week of people being upset with Coach McCaffery and bringing up stuff about Iowa. Iowa fans, Fran McCaffery has developed the Murray twins, Luka Garza. He has brought in high-end NBA talent to Iowa.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
He's not going anywhere. Okay, there is no hot seat. There's none of that crap. That's a bunch of BS. And I'm just here to say, Fran McCaffery at Iowa has been a great marriage and should only continue. And the people who are angry, you're angry in this moment, but don't go to extremes. Now, if you're a Louisville fan, you got every right to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Okay, that change should have happened yesterday.
Well, especially how bad of a job. Not Iowa's a great university. Don't get me wrong; it was my dream school to go to. But that's not a good head coaching job if you look at it in the grand scheme of Big Ten coaching gigs. That is a low mid pack of a Big Ten coaching place.
Dude, Iowa is a place I never thought I'd ever go to. That sounds like a third world country to me.
How fun did you have though?
Oh, I had a great time. You beat the shit out of Michigan State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
even better.
Then we beat the shit out of Tammy, the blackjack dealer.
Yeah, we did.
Not physically. Not physically.
Oh, we took everything from her. It was great.
Are there casinos in Iowa City?
Yeah, I guess that's where I ended up. It was a great time. But yeah, like that's a hard job. People don't realize, like, just because you don't get the respect, like McCaffery doesn't get the respect because they expect so much from him now because they had those years of being a 2 seed, having Luka, having these NBA guys. You're not going to just all of a sudden be back to there once all those people leave and graduate. So people get spoiled and they think we should always be here. Like they should be Duke all the time now.
You're a victim of your own success.
Yeah. It's a great way to put it. I didn't have to speak 20,000 words, but I could have just said that. A couple more teams I wanted to. We'll just get over with. What's your thoughts on Duke? I have many thoughts, but what's yours?
Well, I think that the Tyrese Proctor injury will continue to allow us to figure out this question. It could be a blessing in disguise.
I thought the same thing.
It's going to allow for Jared McCain to show us what he really is. So that you're not finding out in mid-February or you're not still trying to figure out the answer to the question. He's got to be consistent. He's got to get into a rhythm. In the preseason, there were rumors that he was Duke's best player.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That he was a killer. That he was cold-blooded, making all these plays.
And he's got a million fucking TikTok followers. And I'm glad he stopped posting. I just need him to fucking shoot. He's a great shooter. And he's very good. And I actually thought the same thing when Tyrese Proctor got hurt. It sucks. Like, we want Tyrese Proctor to play. So
of course.
Could be a lottery pick. But, like, it honestly lets Duke have their chance to figure out their rotation. Figure out who's the next man up, like McCain or Foster or anybody else. Like, they are. And then I also think Filipowski is struggling a little bit having to play the 5.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge difference. People don't realize going from 4 to 5. It's way more physical. I think he's having to play the 5 on defense and then getting smoked and playing on offense every time. It changes your game. But I do think that they'll be completely fine. And I think this might help them as well.
Well, at the end of the day, they've got to show that they can win away from Cameron Indoor.
Yeah.
This John Shire 4-8 record in road games is concerning. I mean, you've played 12 road games as the head coach at Duke, and you've won 4 of them. So that's concerning. That's not Duke basketball. That's not the pedigree of this program. I'm a big Shire fan. I think he's got a chance to be the coach at this university for a very, very long time. I think he's wired to compete. He's crushing it in the recruiting ranks. But the fact is, when you get out there and you're playing in these games, Duke's got to develop an edge. They've got to be tough.
That's what. Exactly.
They've got to protect the rim. And rim protection is more than just shot blocking. You've got to get up in your man and make it hard for that big man to get the ball. So I just think this team, I'm waiting for Duke to go on the road and just say, F you, this is who we are, and this is what our program stands for. Where's that toughness? When's it going to get unleashed?
I want them to be hated. I want the I love when people hate Duke, and like we had the Grayson Allens, we had all these like JJ Redick, all these people that they hated, because that is what Duke is. You're so good that they hate you, and you are also like, fuck you, let's go on defense. It's just been like, we lost to Georgia Tech. You can't lose to Georgia Tech. You can't do it. Lose Arizona, sure, that's fine. You shouldn't be losing, but they are making me angry. I could go about Duke a whole time, but Jordan, you have another team you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about Ole Miss, Fanta, and what your thoughts, because this is it's pretty crazy to have a coach, allegedly what happened previous, and then he came back to a different university, a very, very powerful university,
Right.
and took over the reins right away. And they're doing pretty damn well this year. So I was just curious your thoughts of that whole transition, because in my mind, Fanta, I think it's one of the less talked about stories out there, because you don't really hear much about it. But I don't know. I was just curious what your thoughts might be.
Right. So, great question. It's a great question about Mississippi, who, as we wake up today, they are 9-0. They're off to a terrific start to the year, and Chris Beard is a winner. Okay? He has his personal issues and had them, and they're well documented, and what he did was wrong. But Ole Miss and the SEC, it just means more, and frankly, they don't give a damn about who they're hiring, okay?
Their football program.
Right, exactly. I mean, morals go out the door in that league because they're about winning, and a lot of programs would not have been willing to hire a Chris Beard, and rightly so. Mm-hmm. But at Ole Miss and Oxford, hotty toddy, look, they made that hire because guess what? They're desperate to win. And when you're desperate to win, that trumps all. And guess what? They're winning. And they're 9-0. Now, I will say this, okay? It's interesting. Either the analytics haven't caught up to them, or maybe the analytics are more right than we think. But how is a 9-0 Ole Miss team 94 in KenPom?
They're 94.
94.
I thought it would be at least 50.
50,
Wow.
right. I'm with you. Alan Flanagan, Matt Morrell. Now, Morrell, he was already with this program last year. He's a great player. I mean, this is a guy who averages over 15 points per game, over 4 rebounds, but over 3 assists. So he's a really good player, and bringing him back was huge. To get Alan Flanagan and bring him in from Auburn, that was a huge chip for Chris Beard and his staff. Because Flanagan's a fifth-year guard. You could talk about some of his issues on the court when he's been playing for Auburn and how sometimes his shot selection was questionable. But the fact is, he's come into Chris Beard's program, and he shot 43% from 3.
Yeah, that's great.
And 44% from the floor. So they've got good guard play. They've got a level of balance. You've got Jalen Murray as well. Jalen Murray's a junior, who has come in and only raised his productivity for this program, averaging close to 15 points per game. They brought him in from St. Peter's. So they've just pieced this together with different transfers. And, another guy that you got to look at with this team is Jamarian Sharp. I mean, that's a guy at 7'5" who you could bring in off the bench, and he's going to protect the rim. I mean, right now he's averaging close to 3 blocks per game coming over from Western Kentucky. And if you followed a little bit of college hoops, you realize that Sharp was the best shot blocker in the country the last couple of years. So they went in the portal. They brought in a guard in Flanagan who's just wired to score. They brought in a rim protector in Sharp. Beard knows how to get players, okay? And he knows how to win. So it's not surprising to see Ole Miss winning. Is it a little bit eyebrow-raising to see them 9-0? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But it's a story now. When was the last time we talked about Mississippi basketball? They are relevant again.
Seriously, I don't know the last time. It's been a...
Marshall Henderson.
Yeah, Marshall Henderson.
Yeah.
And it's evidence, guys.
Friends of the show.
It's right. It's evidence, too. You don't need 3 or 4 years, okay? You might take a year, but Chris Beard didn't need any time.
Yeah.
He jumped into things. I mean, I would say this. I would bet you he knew last February that he was getting this job. He started looking and preparing the groundwork to get kids in. And, I saw he was at Peach Jam over the summer, and he basically told all of us, yeah, this is going to take no time. And one thing, I mean, look, with Chris, he changed the complexion of Texas basketball and ended up going poorly at his end and leading to a really rough downfall. But, guys, he made Texas tough. He made Texas a program.
Yep.
And they made the Elite Eight last year. And those were his players. So he's a winner. And I don't think he'll be at Ole Miss long. I think eventually he'll get a bigger job.
I want to know what it was like to see. I wish I was a part of those recruiting pitches with those players that are transferring into him after everything he just did previously. I want to know what he said, because whatever he said, I mean, he got some pretty damn good talent to come to Ole Miss.
Right. And he has a way about him with players and preaching about family and culture and, being able to sell. I mean, look, if we look around college basketball, some of the best coaches are also people that have a lot of off the court baggage.
Every coach everywhere is always there's something. Oh, they're winning, so let's forget about they did this. That's just what sports is in it whole, And it's like, listen,
guy killed a guy. He's an all-star.
Yes,
I had to, Marty. Marty, I had to.
I know you did.
We bring it up every episode.
I had to put it in.
Yeah, your check's in the mail. I can't wait. Briefly, please, Southeastern Conference.
Oh yeah.
Ole Miss at Texas next year.
That's exactly what I was gonna say too. That's gonna be amazing.
Maybe you guys go.
I think that's like a game we have to go.
It's in Austin.
Is it?
I mean, if you've never been that building is unbelievable.
There's a team that everyone gets so upset about or they get excited, and then it's like, what the fuck happens with this team.
Oh, boy.
And that is Purdue. You have the tall bastard. Yes, he's very good. He's tall. Honestly, he's tall. That's just what it is. He's tall. He should get a foul call every time he gets down there, but that's a different story. Purdue does this to you guys every year. They're very good. The Big Ten's, the Big Ten's always like, oh, they beat each other up all the time. It's not that good of a conference. We all go through that. I go through this every year. I told you this, Jordan, when you were playing. I said it to your face, your conference stinks. And listen, Purdue is going to be a 1, a 2 seed. And they're going to lose to a team that's like, oh, how'd they lose them? Because they always do it. They always do it. They have not proven themselves in the tournament, and it should matter. And yes, they have guards that got a year older this year. That helps. What's his name? Fletcher Lawyer?
Yep.
Very good. I love him. They're going to crumble in the March Madness.
Come on.
Don't you? I feel like it has to be brought up. I think I heard, what's his name? Seth Greenberg?
Yep.
He got into a fight with somebody on the broadcast about Purdue. I forget. I was randomly watching. I don't know why I was watching this pregame show or halftime show, but they were talking about it's like the guy's like, all I'm saying is you have to bring up the past.
Right.
And it's not the past. It's last year. It's the year before. Like it's been happening. So what's your thoughts? Because also they lose to Northwestern, and Northwestern just has their number. Northwestern Rutgers just has Purdue's number, and then Northwestern loses to Chicago State.
Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
Chicago State
doesn't matter.
Oh, they stopped their season 2 years ago.
No, we're not doing.
They were so bad.
Come on, though. You can't go transitive property.
I'm not, but I'm just saying what happened, And also, Chicago State, my favorite team. They brought in like a 5-star this year. Good for them. But
no, that coach is doing a good job turning them around. Slowly but surely. But here's the regardless. No, here's what you have to acknowledge. If you're going to acknowledge the past, can we acknowledge the present? The present is that they won the Maui Invitational. The present is that they were able to beat Marquette, Tennessee, and Gonzaga 3 straight days of basketball. They won the greatest MTE ever. That Maui Invitational was absolutely absurd. So if you're going to fault them for when they had the all-time meltdown in the tournament, you could do that. But you've got to come over to the island for a moment and understand the fact, I know the Maui is in March Madness, but we can only award them for what they've done this season thus far. And you've got to reward them for winning those 3 games in the fashion that they did. Fletcher Lawyer had his night against Marquette. And Braden Smith had his night against Tennessee. It was either one way or the other. The point is, all it takes is for one of those guards to get into a rhythm. And when one of those guards gets into a rhythm, I mean a scoring rhythm, where they're scoring 25, 27 points, because that's typically how this goes. Edey's totaled 95 points combined in his last 3 games, as we're doing this recording on Friday. Edey has scored 95 points in his last 3 games. He is essentially averaging around 25 points per game. So, these guards are another year older, but it's more than just that. It's the acquisition of a Lance Jones from the transfer
Yes.
portal. He's been very good. Miles Colvin can give them a spark. Mason Gillis is still in the equation. And Kaufman Wren is a guy who can help them as well. I think they're a little bit deeper. I think they're another year older. And I do see Virginia in them. That Virginia team that found redemption. I really do see that.
I see it in your face. You have it in your face right now.
Well, you know why I have it in my face? Because now is the time in West Lafayette. Tell me a better window for them to win it all.
They're not going to do it, Fanta. They're not. They're not.
It's almost. I will say this. It would be bad, in my opinion, for our sport that we love, if they show up and lose in the first weekend.
Oh.
Because then you're sitting here saying, wait a minute, they won the Maui. They beat all these elite teams. They beat Alabama. Alabama hit 19 threes last Saturday.
That was a crazy
How
game.
many teams do you think Alabama would have beaten last weekend?
Probably everyone.
Except one.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it really would diminish your regular season if you go and show up and lose in the first weekend. I know there's Purdue haters out there, and I know you're one of them. But if not now, then when? And I'm going to go down swinging. And maybe when I revisit you guys in March or whenever we talk again, we could circle back, and I will gladly eat my words.
All right.
But I believe Purdue will be in the Final Four.
Okay.
I will say this. I haven't seen a team that, okay, everyone has bad nights. Northwestern's a really good team. Yes, they lost to Chicago State, but Fanta's exactly right. You can't use the transitive property in college basketball. It just doesn't work like that. It does not work like that.
At home against Chicago State.
I understand that.
We got to talk about the games that happened, you know,
Okay.
Jordan?
Also, it was a Big Ten game. That you wrote on. Life in the Big Ten is how it is. It's like that in all
you beat each other up. It's a hard conference.
You do that in every conference. Big 12 will beat the shit out of each other this year. They have 6 teams that are in the top 20.
Yep.
They're actually good teams. Well, I think all 6. I think Purdue's the only teams that can.
You know what, though?
Come close to the Big 12 teams.
Okay,
in the Big Ten.
But I will say that, well,
Illinois. I actually think Illinois is very good this year. 2 teams.
I think Illinois actually has a better chance to make a deeper run than they've had previously.
I 100% agree.
Because of Marcus Domask and Quincy Guerrier and who they brought in there. Coleman Hawkins has his shot economized a little bit more. So I like him, but you can't be taking 9 threes and making 3 of them.
I also agree with that. I get furious when I bet on them and I'm watching Hawkins just haul threes. I'm like, all right, you're better. You don't need to be doing this. There's better 3-point shooters than you over there.
Right.
3 of 9, it really isn't that bad though.
Well, yeah, I know, but could we turn it into 7, 6 shots? Sometimes he's doing a little bit too much from the 3-point line. From the 3-point line. My
problem.
I like him though. I like Coleman.
Purdue is that, and the problem is sometimes Zach Edey. Yes, he's scoring so many points, but sometimes when your main focus is just getting him the ball, and sometimes
their main focus.
No, it is.
Not.
For the past 2 years, it has
It's
been.
Not their main focus.
Their main focus is always
29
get
minutes
it
of the
in.
game. He doesn't play 10 minutes of the game.
Their main focus is throw it down to him. That's what happened with Hunter a bunch of times on Michigan.
That's not their main focus.
What's their main focus, Jordan?
That's not how their offense is run. You
is.
You don't know their swivel action.
Their swivel. You're gonna throw swivel action at me? You're gonna throw swivel action at me?
You haven't faced swivel, bird boy.
Yeah, bird boy. Fanta's right.
Okay, I can't wait to come back in March. We're gonna have Fanta on again, and we're gonna be like, oh, who'd they lose to this year? They probably lost. They probably lose to fucking Chicago State.
Here's the thing: if their main focus, this is what people said about Iowa too. Yeah, it hurt us some games. It didn't, and it helped some other guys on our team. When so let's say their main focus is Edey. Other guys on the team, Fanta just brought it up. They just played the Maui Invitational, and they had other guys go off in other games when Edey was the main focus still, if you want to go that route.
But they turn the ball over a ton trying to get the ball down low to him. When it's not there, they do it a ton.
You can't talk negatively against them so far this year. I understand you want to go in the past and see. Northwestern, but what they've done this year already, it trumps any other team in my opinion.
That's what I will say.
Oh, absolutely, Jordan.
The Maui, I can't say much about them. You're right, 100%. But I do think it's okay to bring up there is a different pressure on Purdue in March now. Like other teams
Of
don't
course.
have that. Like of course, like they're thinking about that.
There's
You
a pressure
know
on
they're
any
thinking.
big time school to perform.
Yeah,
on
but
anybody.
there's a different one when they're playing an inferior team. It's just 100%. I know
so
I
it's-
get it is for like Duke and Kentucky, but like there's definitely if we lose again, oh god, everyone is gonna be. And if they start off slow, it's like here it goes. Here comes
But
Purdue.
to me, it's a different type of pressure. Okay, so like Kentucky, those kids don't know any better though. Like Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham and Aaron Bradshaw are just going to play. And by the way, Kentucky's got the most upside in college basketball because if those kids are only going to keep getting better.
Are their bigs healthy yet?
Well, Bradshaw's now factored in. The other kids, Vonimir Visick is still waiting on whether he's going to be eligible or not. But having Bradshaw's huge. I mean, that's big for Kentucky. To me, the pressure's more on the coach than it is the kids. John Calipari's got to put it together.
100%.
The pressure's firmly on Painter and it's on Purdue. The pressure's different, but I think you have to just embrace the pressure, like Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome once did. They just said we're going to embrace what the pressure is, and we understand the elephant in the room. And I think when you've experienced an all-time low, there is something to be said about them when you go back out and play. You entered the tournament this time and you say, well, it can't get any worse. We lost to FDU. We got embarrassed. We can't get embarrassed any worse than that. They were the smallest team in the country. We were the biggest, and we lost. It was the classic Hoosier-style movie.
Bad.
Okay, right, it was awful. But when it's that awful, you almost say, you know what, guys? F it. Let's just play. Yeah. Let's just play. And that's what they got to do. And I thought in Maui, they just played their game. I think the biggest thing with Purdue is not offensively. It's when you put Edey in ball screen coverage defensively, can they be able to rotate, make the right play, sequence things out, complete possessions defensively, and rebound?
Swivel action.
Well, right. I mean, when teams put Edey in the blender and make him defend in ball screens, how does Purdue handle that? That, to me, is always the question when you're playing them. Alabama did a brilliant job offensively against Purdue's defense. They did a brilliant job, and they made shots. I mean, sometimes the game is simple. If you come out and your perimeter shooters are rocking,
yep,
you're gonna win.
I truly
in this
don't
sport.
think they know what a 2-pointer is. Alabama. I don't think they
No,
know.
they don't.
They have no idea. When I watched that game, I said they love, and I know Oates has always been like, he preaches like, he has like 4-point shots in his practices. Like he like shows if you shoot from here, they love threes, Alabama, but they could be dangerous if they get hot too.
Right now, Alabama's best is top 10 worthy. Their worst is 45th or 50th. They kind of sum up the sport because Alabama is not a good defensive team.
No.
They have to outscore you. But as we talked about, in March, you can only defend so well. At some point, your killer's got to come out and score the basketball. And look, your main scorer's got to come out and deliver. And Alabama's got scores. They really do.
100%. I had a question about one team that's not particularly good, and there's a lot going on with their team, and that's Michigan. There's rumors coming out about the coach, and I also some sources say that's just all nonsense. I'm sure sources say it's all nonsense things coming out. And they're also like, I saw, was that you tweeting about Caleb Love?
Yeah, did a Q&A with him.
That was,
yeah.
I was starting to, and I don't read much, Fanta, so you caught my eye. I don't read anything.
Jordan, aren't you surprised?
Fanta catches everyone's eye. What are we talking about?
I know he does, but I don't read. And like when it comes to like an actual article, I had to click on it and then
just
read some
anything in
bullet
general.
points. But I was starting to read some. I didn't finish it all because I got obviously distracted. A little ADD action.
Right.
But he they didn't talk to him for 2 weeks after he committed.
Yeah.
And they didn't really tell him about the academic stuff and what the hell is going on in Michigan?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Question.
I mean, which sport are we talking about here? I think if I'm the Michigan AD, I want to know which Ward Manuel. He's a good guy. I want to know how much scotch that guy's drank in his back room this year when he's gotten home, because there's not enough liquor on the shelf If you're Michigan's administration, the headache that you've had this year is just absurd. If it's not one thing, it's the other. Between Harbaugh and Juwan Howard. I mean, think about that. Think about your football head coaches is Jim Harbaugh, who basically has been criminalized in college football this year. He is the Hamburglar. Okay? And then you have your basketball coach, Juwan Howard, who ever since he punched, it was a punch, slap, whatever, Joe Krabenhoft of Wisconsin.
Who's a big bastard, by the way.
Yeah, and basically, he's been enemy
Yep.
to anybody else that's not in Ann Arbor. Okay? So, the Caleb Love stuff, Caleb did say in the Q&A he has no ill will towards Juwan. But Caleb said, much like Terrence Shannon, his academic credits could not
Yep.
get to Michigan. Think about if Michigan had Terrence Shannon.
Oh my God.
Right.
Imagine Michigan last year with Terrence Shannon.
Oh, they could have been a legit national title contender.
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, they already had 2 NBA players in Hunter Dickinson and didn't make the tournament. But honestly, with Shannon, they really would have been that good. But on paper. But for me, it's not even results. Like when people are like, yeah, Michigan's gone way downhill. Like they made the Sweet 16 a couple years ago. Like Juwan Howard has literally gone on a tournament run. It just gets clouded by the fact that you've had this off the court stuff. It's stuff constantly. And for me, the Love thing, like for a staff to not talk with him for a couple of weeks, now that's his version of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 3 sides to a story: Michigan, Love, and the truth. But for a staff to ghost him for 2-3 weeks, that's a bad look. That's a bad look.
A big player too. This is not like some random. This is a nationally known player.
But for me, it's this other stuff this week. That's been reported that Juwan Howard got into it with John Sanderson, the Michigan strength coach. That they got into it over Juwan's son, Jet, and that they got into it because of something with training and to me, that's alarming because you're the leader of a program. You're the leader of a program, and you're getting into it with your strength coach in front of players. It's one thing for Coach McCaffery to get into it with the officials when he's defending his players.
Rightfully so. Everyone should get into it with officials.
Right, but you should not be getting into it with people under your umbrella.
Is that definitely true? This whole thing?
Oh, no, that's true.
That's true.
He got into it with his strength coach. The strength coach filed a complaint. The strength coach was not at the Iowa game. John Sanderson is a good man. He's been at Michigan forever. And you got your head men's basketball coach getting into it with your strength coach?
Yeah.
Jace Howard, by the way, not Jet.
Yeah.
Jet's with the Magic. I meant to say Jace Howard. But for me, that's an instance where if Sanderson says something, if you're Howard, you pull him aside and you talk amongst yourselves in a closed room. You do not have a public display of getting in each other's faces in front of kids. That's not a good look for your program. As the head coach of your program, you're the CEO.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of talking about all these head coaches out here in Division I basketball, Fanta and Marty, that are just not good human beings. I hate to say it, but honestly, how much in the last 2 years have we talked about off-court issues with Power 5 head coaches?
No,
it happens almost every week. There's something that comes up. Am I wrong, or am I just
you're right. But if I'm being honest, I kind of love it.
They don't care. I mean, no one cares.
It's just because there's always got to be stories in. I don't like when it's like. Obviously, if they're doing really bad stuff, obviously I don't like it. But the fighting with the trainer, it's kind of crazy. It throws wrinkles into the stories of these teams. It's like Michigan's not very good this year, obviously, but like Michigan football, that story, and then them playing Ohio State was like the biggest college football game of all time. And it's stupid, but because they're like cheating, they're throwing this guy out there that's just watching signs and shit. It's nuts. It adds to the story, but obviously if it's really bad stuff, I don't want any part of that. But I have 2 more questions. One college basketball. One I gotta ask something personal.
Okay.
Jordan, do you have one before I go?
Yes, I want to ask you about Florida Atlantic because, in my opinion, this might be a hot take, Fanta, but there's 4 solid teams that are in their conference this year. Tulane's pretty good. Wichita State, Memphis,
Yeah.
Temple's solid. I would not be shocked if those teams make a run in their conferences alone, and Florida Atlantic might fall a little bit behind, and they might.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm throwing that out there to you. I'm just curious on what you might say.
Yeah, I think that they'll be tested more. They'll be tested more in the American. But I think that they'll make the NCAA tournament and be a good seed. You know why? I would say that you're right if they hadn't scheduled. They're going to be the most battle-tested team in that league. Memphis schedules well. I mean, Penny Hardaway's got a dark horse, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Memphis wins that league over FAU.
They're experienced, and just adding the Kansas State guy.
Yeah,
is,
Tomlin.
Yeah, is like I think, and they have Quinterly this year too.
Quinterly
right?
and David Jones. David Jones is playing at an incredible level.
I think only thing I am worried about is Penny Hardaway. That's it.
Yeah, I think Penny likes to prove people wrong, and I think a lot of people have been out on him lately. So for me, I like the vibe of Memphis. FAU, they're not going anywhere. I think it's an interesting take, Jordan, and you could be. I think they'll suffer a couple of conference losses that'll make people say, "Wait, what happened?" Mm-hmm. I think it's part of moving to a league. You're not as familiar with those teams. You're not as familiar with their styles. But Elijah Martin and John L. Davis, those guys are cold-blooded you-know-whats. They're just tough as hell. And Vlad Golden on the interior, they have good complementary pieces. They can shoot it. They can execute late in a shot clock. They play tough. They play defensively. They're not the biggest team. And that's outside of, they can ill afford to have Vlad Golden in foul trouble. If Golden gets in foul trouble, FAU is not the same team. And they're going to play Arizona Saturday, December 23rd in Vegas. Golden's got to stay out of foul trouble for them to have a chance. If he gets in foul trouble against Dumar Bello, the game's over. Because Caleb Love, Kylan Boswell, Pele Larson, Keyshawn Johnson, by the way, Arizona getting Keyshawn Johnson was the most underrated transfer move of the offseason. FAU, though, I still think they'll be a tournament team. I'm going to say that they'll be like a 4 or 5 seed.
I'm a Dusty
maybe a
May
6
guy, too.
Maybe a 6,
I love him. All right, my one question is dark horse. If you had to pick not a blue blood, the obvious teams, it's tough this year, but a middle of the pack who could maybe make a run in the tournament.
Auburn.
Oh, I like that.
Auburn, yeah. I really like Aiden Holloway. He's come in. He's been really good for them. He could shoot it. If you go under on a screen, good night. Indiana went under on screens. I don't know what Mike Woodson was thinking because Holloway, he buried him. And they scored 104 against Indiana. And Jordan, you don't like Indiana at all, but they do play defense.
Yep.
They didn't defend Auburn for a lick. Janai Broome, guys. Broome coming back to Auburn was huge. He tested the waters. He was at the NBA Draft Combine. He frankly had a good week there in Chicago. I saw him in the spring. I was impressed with him at the Combine. And I think that him coming back was huge. I like their collection of players. So my dark horse is Auburn. I think they've got the speed. I think Bruce Pearl's a really good coach. I think he's got the formula for them to go on a run.
I got Colorado State. I think they're not really a dark horse because they're ranked. They're highly ranked already.
But still, if Colorado State fucking makes anything, it's
I mean, they're good though. They have they're very well coached. They play defense. It is very hard to score on them. They're very well disciplined. In my opinion, they're primed to make a run in the NCAA tournament this year.
Well, and they have an All-American in Isaiah Stevens.
Right.
That's the thing with Colorado State is I'm pulling up some things on them here. They have one of the best rising star coaches in the country.
Yep.
In Nico Medved. And they crushed Creighton. They really took it to them. And they're in a tough league. The Mountain West could have 4 teams in the NCAA tournament, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you got Colorado State, you've got San Diego State, you've got Nevada, Don't count out Boise State. That league is good
Yeah.
and continues to be good. But I like our picks there. Auburn, Colorado State. I want to give some love on this show to Clemson.
That was another team that's they're very good.
Very good. Very good. I mean, P.J. Hall could be the ACC Player of the Year. Joe Girard is a sharpshooter who he was such a good pickup from Syracuse. He opens up a new dimension of that offense. Chase Hunter is underrated as hell. And I'll tell you what, Ian Shiflin, the big man inside, he rebounds the heck out of the basketball. So Clemson could win the ACC, America. Get your futures in now.
I can't do that, but it is a good, they are, that's the one team I'm scared to play in the ACC. That's really it.
Really?
I'm really not scared to play anybody else besides Clemson.
You're not scared of Carolina?
No, I'm really not.
He's never scared of Carolina.
I mean, we handled them last year.
I don't really think they're going to be doing much in the postseason this year.
I also remember I was the person that called I wouldn't make the tournament last year. And then you know what? It's not fun being
but this
right.
year I believe
everyone's...
it. The year when you said I didn't believe it, this year I believe it.
I think Love and what's his name were actually there was things happening there. I think that was
Love and Davis
or Davis.
Yeah. Well, there were things.
Yeah, there was things happening. I think that's why the team was not working. Speaking of Indiana, though, Hunter's going to Indiana tomorrow. How much they are going to fucking hate him again? They're going to hate him even more being on Kansas.
I would be shocked for Kansas to come out and win at Assembly Hall. I think.
Oh, I think Kansas is going to beat the shit out of them.
You think Kansas is?
Yeah, I think Indiana has no offense at all.
Yeah, but
it's
the
hard
game
to win there.
It is 100%. I just think that their offense really is stagnant in Indiana.
But Kansas's offense can be stagnant too this year.
Yeah. True. I think McCullough, whatever, and also what's going on with Timberlake?
Timberlake has been
abysmal.
MIA.
They're not even playing him anymore.
Yeah, they need Johnny Furphy.
Yes.
To knock down some shots. But yeah, Indiana to me is a curious team because they're just so porous from three. And they've had Xavier Johnson missing.
Yeah.
But they need that Cups kid to hit some shots. I mean, they need anything they can get from the perimeter. But when you're relying on Trey Galloway, he's a quality player, but he's not your one or two on a perimeter, in my humble opinion.
No.
They need what they need to have any chances. They're going to need Malik Renew, and they need Kalel Ware to just dominate. Get Dickinson a little bit of foul trouble, and then you got a chance. But Jordan's right. When you're playing at Assembly Hall, you're down 6-0 before the game starts.
Yeah, and especially with the added factor of Hunter coming back, and it's Kansas, they are going to be way more up. It's their Super Bowl, and Kansas is not.
That's
obviously. Right. Personal question: how much does Goodman still hate us?
I don't think he does. I don't think he does. I don't. I don't think Jeff hates anybody. I think it was a March. It was March drama.
He was getting upset.
We don't need to hate. Nobody hates anybody. I'm not in the world of.
Oh, Fanta's world isn't. Fanta's world is everybody loves everybody. I love that. That's what I love about you. You're college basketball and love.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I don't think Jeff hates anybody. Here's my theory on the whole thing. I thought it helped both entities throughout March Madness generate some fun drama and buzz, and look at it this way. I'm a friend of this show, and over at that media entity, I think that we all love college basketball. Yeah. So you know what? I'm not. I know you'd like me to stir the pot, but I genuinely believe that all that's in the rearview mirror. I hope that it's in the rearview mirror, and I don't think that Jeffrey hates anybody over.
Marty, I would argue it wasn't even so much Jeff.
No, it was. Remember when he said that I was rooting Hunter's career. I was giving him bad advice.
But didn't it start before that, or am I saying it wrong?
No. I think it was
first. Okay.
That's the only time I got mad was when he was like, "I'm ruining Hunter's life," where like I'm doing
That was
Hunter.
crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's where I started calling him having a lisp and he's a more yeah, that's where I got upset. But yeah, no, I have. Listen, I hope Jeff's doing good. I think Hunter made a good decision going to Kansas. I made that one for him too. So that was good. I feel like he could go to the NBA now. No, but I just obviously had to ask that because it's fun.
I
I've
thought
always
you
liked Jeff Fanta. He's always been really
Me
nice
too.
to me.
That's the problem.
Well, Jeff has helped me in countless ways early on in my career and still does, and he's helped a lot of people as well. Let's chalk it up to a misunderstanding, if you will. We're in the Christmas spirit here on Roundball, and I would like to think that maybe out in Arizona this spring we can all go out for a beverage and clean this up.
Maybe we can.
I would love to service.
I'm open,
You're open to a discussion.
I'm open for a discussion.
Wow.
I would just like an apology for telling me I'm ruining a person's life. That's it.
When was the last time that someone actually apologized to you?
Honestly, it's been recent. Honestly,
Wow.
Recently, I won't say who it was, but recently, because they were being an asshole, and I showed them the facts, which I could do to Jeffrey if he wants.
Was it? Never mind.
Yeah, you probably could figure it out.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'll tell you later. But yeah, it was people. I apologize when I'm completely wrong about people, not teams.
But you've been right a lot lately.
UNC.
You were right on UNC. You
That
were
was
right
it.
with Hunter.
Yeah,
You're
got him in the right place.
Yeah.
Imagine he was still at Michigan. I'd made that decision for him. You know, I was in the pitches. Calipari was in my pocket. I was like, hey, Coach Cal, he can't go to you. Too young of a team.
He's not ready.
He's not ready for that. He doesn't need to be the young team. Too much for him.
Out of all the things I thought I hear on this show, Calipari being in Marty's pocket is not one of them.
Listen, the funniest thing is the funny part is during Hunter's whole thing, people were reaching out to me, and that's where I was like, all right, this is getting out of hand.
You were on Kentucky's
I was on Kentucky's radio. I had coaches text me hey, what's Hunter thinking? And I'm like, listen, I don't know. The guy hasn't even the guy just doesn't talk. When we talk, it's about dinner and what we're doing that night, nothing else. But Fanta, it's very tough. Our producer's name is Champa, and Fanta and Champa is it gets in my head. We appreciate you coming on. I'm so excited. This is we're me and Jordan talking about right now is college basketball. Really, people start caring about college basketball.
It's here.
When college football Saturdays, this is the last college football Saturday until the playoffs, which is all of its college basketball conference play starting. Last thing before we go, do you think that they should have some of these different conference play, out of conference play in February and January?
Well, yes and no. I mean, they did the SEC Big 12 challenge has been in
later, right?
Yeah, has been later in the year. So I don't mind if you want to designate a Saturday or two to some non-conference challenge games just to get teams out of their league for a day. It's just so hard when you're playing an 18 or 20 game conference schedule.
Yeah.
Jordan knows it. The grind of your league, whether you think that league's good or not, the grind of your league is really, really hard. So, yeah, you could schedule some marquee games. Kentucky's playing Gonzaga deeper in the year.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So that's a big one. That game's deeper into the season. Yeah, but here's the thing. In the Big 12, which is now going to add, Arizona, Colorado, Arizona State. Already just added BYU, who's having a terrific season.
That's still
in Cincinnati.
Stunned when I look at the standings. I see BYU there.
Yeah,
wait till the Big Ten next year.
Right.
Big Ten will be great. Well,
right.
That's going to help the Big Ten for you. That's all they needed.
I don't even know how it's going to be logistically, travel-wise, media-wise. I don't know.
Rutgers is going to have a brutal time going places.
Well, think about.
I forgot to bring this up to you. How is that going to be possible?
It's going to be a really unique situation. I think in basketball, it's going to be very difficult to navigate at times because at the end of January, when UCLA has to play a game at Maryland or at Rutgers, like the weather's not always sunshine and rainbows.
No.
So you're going to have, I guarantee you, I'll put this to the bank. If I could bet on this, I would. In these new conference configurations, Big 10 and Big 12, you will get a game postponement next year.
Yeah.
At least one, because a
I
team
agree.
legitimately cannot make it out to that city for the game because of travel. So it's going to be a cluster, I think, at times. The Big Ten's trying to figure it out. They're going to have to redo their conference schedule. The other thing, not all these teams will be able to go to the conference tournament. If you had all your teams, your 18 teams in a conference tournament, you'd be playing a conference tournament for an entire week. You can't do that. They're not going to be able to take the entire league. So it is what it is. It's going to be a difficult situation to navigate for those leagues, but at the end of the day, they're going to benefit in their pockets because they're going to get more teams in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. It's just how it works. But, yeah, I would like to see it a little bit, Marty. I think for college basketball, they got to find a solution to the opening week of the season. It's just not good enough. There's got to be a conference challenge the opening week of the season.
They used to do the Duke, Kentucky, Michigan, the Champions Classic. They used to do it the first game.
But even that's not good enough for me just on one night.
Yeah.
I want a week of games.
It should be like Feast Week should be like the first week.
It should be.
Feast Week's the best. But
Feast Week is the best. I think two leagues have to get on the same page and schedule a conference challenge that features 12, 14 games on the first 5 nights of the year. To the coaches who don't want to do that and expose their teams that early in the season, I say this to you. If you lose to those teams, nobody's going to fault you. We're going to say, it's the first week. They're figuring it out. Give them time. Would you rather be that or Michigan State losing to James Madison?
Yeah, that's also a 100% true. I agree. I don't know why those losses, like to very good teams, don't hurt you in the beginning of the season. It's the James Madison losses that hurt.
Play people. Play
100%.
people. Be willing to play people. It's good for the sport. It's good for your team in the long run. Even though Michigan State's 4-5, do you think they'll find a way to make the tournament?
Probably.
Right. So and they played people.
Wins, yeah. And also the travel thing. LIU, they got stuck in traffic going to Manhattan. I could only imagine UCLA going to Newark. There was a bull on the Newark Transit at Newark yesterday.
There was a bull.
There was a legit bull on the tracks.
Yeah, a legit bull on the tracks at Newark Penn Station. I've seen a lot of shit over at Newark Penn Station. I've never seen a live bull running through the tracks.
It was like a beautiful
at Newark
bull
Penn
too.
Station.
I guess Texas is back. It was like
Was
crazy.
this like someone's pet? How did that even come about?
No one has said anything besides like, oh look, and it was a video. Look at this bull. He was gallivanting along the tracks.
That's freaky. That's freaky.
The bull was tranquilized at the Newark Penn Station McDonald's. Which, if you go into the Newark Penn Station McDonald's, I have been. The video boards of the menus don't work.
Nope, not
so
at all.
Yep,
I've been.
You better know what you're ordering.
Yep.
Okay, it's like a secret menu without being secret.
It's unbelievable. Newark Penn Station is something else when you go there.
It's like
It's
when
a wild time.
I drove my grandmother to McDonald's in 2020, and we're getting into the drive-thru, and she goes, I'm not really sure what I want today. And I did a double take. I said, Grandma, I know that your fastball's not on anymore, but we're at McDonald's.
I'll kick you out of this car right now, Grandma.
Yeah, we know what we're getting here.
I'll leave you on the street.
Yeah, two Big Macs, please. Thank you.
Hey,
Second window.
I brought my grandma a while ago to Burger King, and I put the heated seats on. She thought she peed herself.
Oh.
And it was loud. We had a good laugh though. She goes, Matt, I think I did something. I go, Grandma, it's heated seats, new technology. It's a whole thing.
God bless your grandmother.
All
God
right.
bless grandmas around the world.
Facts. God bless them all. That is Roundball. You going to Fordham?
Yeah, heading over to Fordham because I've got the St. John's Fordham game at MSG Saturday, 3:30 FS1.
How is me and Jordan, who have we been trying to get, Jordan?
Rick Pitino.
How is he? I love that man. I will praise that man. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to email their SID. I'm going to go to St. John's games. I'm going to get him on this podcast.
Here's the thing. His son is one of our family's favorite people that we've met and interacted with when
Wow.
he was at Minnesota.
And
he is phenomenal. I don't know how he's doing now, but I just
Richard?
know yes. Where's he at now?
New Mexico.
New
Yeah.
Mexico. Yes.
Could
that's right,
could
New
make the
Mexico.
tournament.
Yes.
Could
New
make the
Mexico's good.
tournament.
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
trivia partner is in a foursome in their golf with Jorge Posada and the Patino.
What are the chances of that?
So it's gonna happen, but how is he? Because I love that guy.
Yeah, I think he's doing well. I think he is struggling with the fact that at St. John's, this has taken. They have been in the basement for a long time. Okay, they have not won an NCAA tournament game since 2000. Won a single NCAA tournament game. And I think Rick thought, I'll just turn this around right now.
Yep.
It's not that easy.
Very hard.
It's
hard.
very hard. So for me, where I sort of look at this is they got to get better defensively. They have been horrible on the defensive end of the floor. You know, they're 7-3 as we're talking. So I think that they have a chance in the Big East to be the 4th or 5th best team in that league, but they've got to develop a defensive identity. Joel Soriano is outstanding. Jordan Dingle hasn't fully come around yet. I like Danish Jenkins, but they've got to get stops. If they don't get stops, it's going to be very difficult to beat the Marquettes, Creightons, and UConns of the world. And that's a big question. In the Big East, how many teams does that league get into the NCAA tournament? They've got 3 clear-cut. Villanova would still be in today. They would be in today because they've beaten Carolina, UCLA. They lost to the Philly schools, but right now they're around an 8 or a 9 seed.
Yep.
Providence would be in. Mm-hmm. They've done enough. They blow out Wisconsin. They lost to Oklahoma. Oklahoma hasn't lost to anybody.
Yeah.
But then from there, like Xavier, St.
They're all
John's,
just
Butler.
around. Yeah, Butler.
Butler's 8-2. Like, what will that league look like? But the thing about the Big East is, where you're not ripping them is their top 3 are just so good.
So good. Are you going to go to the Georgetown Province?
Yes.
That's gonna be.
Yes, I will
I
be
wish
in the
Georgetown
house.
was a little better, but still, it doesn't matter. I think that's gonna be a wild place.
Wild. Are you
Wild.
going?
I'm thinking about it. I think like Dave might be going. He doesn't know yet, so it's like
Here's the move. Have you gone to Providence for a game?
once against Seton Hall like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, my advice if you're going to that game, first off, why wouldn't you? Secondly, Friday night, go to Federal Hill for dinner.
Oh,
Get a good Italian dinner. It's right by the arena.
good place.
And then you got the game the next day. But even if you want to in Providence, there's a casino.
All right, you sold me. That's it.
I'm
That's
just
all I
saying,
needed.
it's a great weekend town. Providence, Rhode Island is a
I did
terrific
have
weekend.
a very fun time there. It is a good time. All right, I know you got to go. Thank you for giving us your time. That is Roundball. Jordan, I will see you soon. Hopefully, maybe you can find some time for me.
I'm just glad we're back together. We broke up a little bit, but we're together.
Went through a little rough patch. We're back.
Yep.
I'm glad to hear that. Just in time for the holidays.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
All right, that's John Fanta. Thank you so much. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Instagram. I see him. He's doing TikToks now. You're doing like food reviews sometimes, right?
I'll do it, man.
You're everywhere.
Tell me where to be, and if I have to review some fajitas, I'm in.
He's everywhere. That's Roundball. We will see you guys soon.